right. So, yeah, for today's speech, I'm going to be talking about Bureau of Land Management, shortened for BLM. The Bureau of Land Management manages almost a crazy amount of land. They have over 245 million acres of actual surface land that is managed by the government, and over 700 million acres of mineral rights and mineral land. So with me being an agricultural business ranch management major, I find that super interesting, especially just like as a not so much as a business standpoint of the government with the land, but just an overall just like land, I guess, protection, like not so that way there's nobody overgrazes, nobody does anything. And I've also worked on a big ranch in Montana, which actually manages most of their cattle and their grazing off of BLM land. They have over 400,000 acres total of just BLM land. So how did the BLM get started? I guess I could go on a long rant about some stuff that nobody would understand, but short version is the BLM got started in 1942 with its original name as the Public Land Domain, which is a successor to the U.S. Public Land Grazing Act of 1939, which was really the start to the largest phase of the migration west for the U.S. Now let's move over to when the public domain became the BLM. This happened in 1946 with the consolidation of the General Land Commission from 1932 and 1942. Or 1939, sorry. What if there was no BLM public land? For this would cause for many of the Western ranchers, if the BLM never existed, with all of the 240 million acres they have, it would surely be privately owned by now, which causing many of the ranchers that survive off this public land with grazing their cattle to be forced into lowering the cattle numbers in their herds, and really struggling, honestly, with the grass and everything, because I mean, once a pasture is grazed, you have to let it rest. So they really depend heavily on that massive amount of land that they have. Now that we know kind of like how BLM's got its name, a little bit of the history, we'll move on to what's the public really knows about the BLM, like what really got it famous in today's society. The general public mostly knows the BLM for the wild horses and the burrow management. So like they'll fly them in and they'll take them to holding facilities. But the BLM estimates that there are more than 88,000 wild horses and burros, donkeys pretty much, across the BLM land, yet the land can only physically hold and sustain about half that number. So every day they're growing, the numbers are growing. Which causes the nutrients to dwindle. So naturally they overgraze, they take away all the nutrients and minerals from that land and pretty much cause it to become a desert. They take away a beautiful like grassland of like lush green grass and turn it into like almost a Sahara desert almost. This also not only takes a toll on the land as a long-term effect, but also it causes herds of horses to starve and die. Because of this ever-growing problem, the BLM decided to take action and do the best they could to help. They'll gather herds of wild horses out from the BLM land and herd them into almost a temporary holding facility. So the BLM does this in a certain way. They'll send cowboys out on horseback to kind of spot and start the push and like everything with the horses. And then helicopters will come in from over top and kind of like keep them going in the right direction and like move them a little faster. And they'll push them into like a wing, which is like or a funnel. So like that way they'll herd them in like I guess like a funnel, I guess really. And they'll put them into a temporary holding facility, and then from there they'll transport them into an actual permanent holding facility, which is pretty much a grass and dirt lot where they get fed and That's about it. So, but I mean, you're also able to adopt these horses at a very low price. It's usually like $125 to adopt a horse from them. Actually, when I was still living in Texas, they were paying people from Texas to buy horses at $1,000 a head. So, like, if you went and got a horse, you get $1,000. So, I mean, now that we've concluded the speech, and we talked about how the BLM came to be and everything, and the necessity for the BLM, just for protection of land and everything, for the needs of ranchers. I truly hope that you guys understand why the BLM is here and what its purpose is. I mean, it gives sanctuary to ranchers in times of need and saves a lot of lives in the process. Thank you guys.